What a day for the Rangers who stay in California. It is time to finish the season and finish it in style. We will help you get ready for the final series of the season. It's the DLLS Rangers Podcast, and it starts now. One last time for Jacob deGrom this season, with the hope that next season will be a full season of health for Jacob deGrom. Nobody hoping for that more than he is. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS studios. It's the Rangers Podcast with me, Rads, and Abs, right? And the Prophets over there. So good. And J-Dub is traveling, but he's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. So he's the traveling man today, and we'll get to him, and we'll get to lots more about the Jacob deGrom start tonight and the Andrew Heaney start tomorrow and what the heck they're going to do on Sunday as far as the starting pitcher goes. And we'll also get back to what Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker did yesterday. That's all coming up. But first, we ask you to like us. We ask you to follow us, subscribe to us, hang out with us every day and chat along the bottom of the screen if you would, because it's time to have a little fun and get ready for the final series of the season. We can't do that, though. I can't. I really can't.
It's just flown by.
Well, it has, and especially since we started this in the middle of August, it's just absolutely flown, and it's really, for me, who was in that realm, that role for a long time of paying close attention to every game. It's been great to get back to that level where I'm keeping score and, noting everything and not just
I know, I love your scorecard.
Paying attention to the game as I care. So anyway, it's cool. It has gone quickly. And here's the deal. We can't go on to this next series until we kind of put a bow on the last one, which, even MLB.com said the baseball gods got it right. They did. And they did. I mean, I said that to a few people last night after we left here. I gathered with a few people and I was like, you know what? And they were like, oh, man, Rangers lost. I said, you know what? Somehow it seems fitting, right, that the Oakland Athletics won their final game at that stadium, the Oakland Coliseum, where they've been playing sports since Major League, professional sports, since 1966. And now, for the first time since then, there will be no Major League professional sports played in the city of Oakland, which is just really, it's hard to imagine and it's hard to stomach, and it really makes me feel for the people of Oakland.
You already feel bad about the situation at hand. The least that they can do is enjoy a win for the last time in that stadium. I do think that the baseball gods were on the Oakland Athletics side, and to be honest, I'm not that mad about it.
No, not even a little bit. There were so many great stories about what was happening, during, and after that game yesterday. There were people there as early as 6 o'clock in the morning. Gates didn't open until 8. The parking lot was full by 9. There's a story of one guy who was just roaming around the outside. And again, if you've never been there, trust me, it's not a neighborhood where you'd really want to do a lot of roaming.
You don't think he stopped and grabbed a coffee?
Right. Well,
took a few laps?
A couple of little places you might be able to do that. But yeah, I'm not sure you want to spend a lot of time roaming there. But he was looking for a ticket, which is just amazing that you would just show up in that environment and need a ticket. Now, I hope he at least was able to get in there and enjoy some tailgating. That's one of the things about Oakland, even when they've had the small crowds of 10, 12, 8, 3,000, there's almost always someone tailgating in the parking lot of that stadium, which is a cool thing. For years and years here in Texas, you couldn't really tailgate because you couldn't have an open flame in those parking lots. Now they can do a little bit more tailgating. It's not nearly as big a thing now as it used to be, except, of course, in college sports.
Oh, the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, yeah, I just mean here.
Oh, okay.
I mean here in Texas.
I was like, there's a pretty rowdy.
Oh, yeah. And the Giants, when I've covered Giants games at the Meadowlands, there's a lot of tailgating up there. It's more of for whatever, I guess because it was slow starting here in Texas with regard to the professional sports because of the burn ban, no open flames in the parking lots, it's never really taken off. You get it a little bit on opening day at a Rangers game
it's
or that
hot
type of
here,
thing.
Brads.
But yeah, maybe that's it too.
It's just too dang hot.
It's too hot. Yeah. So anyway, to go back to yesterday's game, there were just so many great moments, including the fact that there were only really 2 numbskulls who ran onto the field during the 9th inning. But other than that, the fans were there to have a good time. And that made yesterday so much more enjoyable. The postscript, the post game of yesterday, so much more enjoyable. Mark Kotze, their manager, who, of course, came up through the ranks in Oakland and grew up there, he addressed the crowd after the game. And I just thought everything about the way the fans handled it and the way the team, not necessarily the organization, but the team handled it was great.
They were very demure. Very mindful. Have you heard that, Rads?
No.
I must educate you after the show.
Thank you. Yeah.
But they were. No, it was I think a lot of people were worried that they were going to literally tear down the stadium on the final out.
Sure.
But that's not what happened. So it was nice to see it, wrapped up in a very wholesome way. Again, it was a really incredible game. Ben said it best. That's the only time I wasn't bothered one bit by losing. And I really couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with Coop, too. I'm glad that Jack got to pitch in that environment. That's one of the things that Boach talked about after the game, and probably one of the motivations for using Jack Leiter on that day. That's an environment that you can't fake. You can't replicate. The only way to feel that type of passion, that type of energy, is to be in it. And both Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter got to be in that environment. And what I loved after the game is, and this speaks to, what Jack thinks about his future with the organization. He said, I hope that someday we do this again when we're closing out a series, a playoff series, that we follow each other. In other words, it would have to be a game 7 because the follow-up question, it may have been from Evan Grant. The follow-up question was, well, wouldn't you rather pitch on successive days in a playoff series? Leiter said, in game 7, it's all hands on deck, which is a great answer. Yeah.
Good
it's a
job,
great
Jack.
answer.
And
Jack was ready with his response. Yeah, the only time he wants to follow Kumar Rocker in the road or on the same day again is in sort of a game 7 or a game 5, if you will, situation like that. But I really like that Jack got to pitch. We're going to get more of that coming up a little bit later. Jeff's going to join us from Anaheim, California, where he is now. But since we're talking about the fact that the Rangers helped close that stadium in Oakland yesterday, we noticed today is the 25th anniversary of the closing of Tiger Stadium, the venerable Tiger Stadium, which opened as Briggs Field back in 1912, the same year, by the way, as Fenway Park, and the same year, just for perspective, that the Titanic sunk. Yeah. So we're talking the length and the life of that one was spectacular. But 25 years ago, in 1999, they played their last game at Tiger Stadium. And our great tie here is that Abby's, you were there, I'm sure, right, as a little kid?
I was 2.
You were 2. She was there. And your dad closed out that ballpark.
My dad closed out Tiger Stadium. We actually have a seat from Comerica.
Wow.
In our basement.
You guys didn't have to steal it, though, right? Like the people in Oakland did.
No, I think we went about it a little more graceful way. Yeah. But it's, it's a really cool accomplishment for my dad's career. He spent majority of his time with the Tigers. So for him to, have such a historic moment with an organization that means so much to him. Ernie Harwell was calling the game, and he's the one that gave him the nickname of the roller coaster. And there's so many little things about Detroit that, honestly, out of all cities that we traveled with, there's nothing like Tigers fans, and you know that.
No, absolutely.
They are diehards. They are so passionate about this team, and it feels like when the team wins, the city wins, every individual wins. So let's take a look at this final photo from Tiger Stadium of where my dad closed out the game. Yeah, we have a really cool couple pieces of memorabilia. Like I said, we have the chair, the stadium seat from Comerica Park, and then we have this panoramic photo downstairs, and it's so cool because it has all of the flashbulb photos.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool, but that doesn't happen anymore because everybody has a smartphone.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just little stuff like that. But I was talking to my dad about it today, and I said, do you have any, weird, fun stories that people just kind of wouldn't think about? And he said that the team was required to stay at the stadium for the closing ceremony. And they were going to get on a flight to go to Minnesota for the last 3 games of the season. So he said that, they were told to stay there, and he and my dad and a few players wanted to be there the whole time. So they actually spent the night at Tiger Stadium.
Really?
Yeah. So he spent the night, and
the night after the game or the night before the game?
No, the night of the game, the final game.
So game ends.
So my dad throws the final pitch, gets the out, and he and a few teammates decided to spend the night because they were required to stay there and watch the closing ceremony. And they had a flight early the next day at like 10 a.m. So he was like, let's just stay here. And my dad said that he slept on a trainer table. He said that it was not comfortable. It was like one of the worst nights of sleep that he got, but he said it's one of his favorite memories that he has.
That's so cool. And the reality is that mirrors what Major League Baseball's schedule makers did to the Oakland Athletics. This time, there were many in Oakland who wished and hoped it would have been the final game of the season. And I don't know why MLB does it this way, but apparently in '99 they were still doing it that way, where you play 3 more on the road after you close out your home stadium. There's got to be some logic to it, but we'll have to talk to somebody at MLB to figure that out. While we're on the Tigers, and we're going to get to our batting cleanup, where we clean up everything that's happening in Major League Baseball for you a little later, but we might as well continue with the Tigers, whose story is just unbelievable.
The Tigers are hot.
Under the fact that the Dodgers clinched for the 11th time in 12 seasons is the Tigers' story, that they say, we can't be stopped. We are not letting up. And it's a really good story in Major League Baseball right now.
Well, around August, the catcher Jake Rogers did a post-game interview when they had very, very horrible chances at the postseason. And he said, don't let the Tigers get hot. That's exactly what they've done. They have been just insane. And really, when you take a look at the story that the Tigers have this season, it's so incredible because it really starts with the first move that they made in the offseason, which is getting rid of their play-by-play announcer, Matt Shepard, and then hiring Jason Benetti, who is just one of the best people at his job. I actually got to spend a lot of time with Jason while the Tigers were in town. Me and him and my dad went to Six Flags, weirdly enough, while the Tigers were in town.
What else?
Hilarious guy. Just really feel fortunate to spend time with him. But I think the coolest thing about him is that, he uses his life as such a platform to speak about something that a lot of people don't know a lot about, and that is cerebral palsy, which is what Jason has. And, he said that he felt the need to go to the Tigers, and he wanted to because he feels that people look at the Tigers the same way that they look at him. And it's kind of with a side eye, or it's kind of with a, can he do this or can they do that? And kind of just like a underestimated mentality. And so Jason said, I love this organization because I feel like I relate to how people view the Tigers, and it's kind of similar to how they view me. And just for him to be able to close out this season against his former team, and another reason that the White Sox decided to separate with Benetti is because of his national obligations. He works with football. They said that that was a problem and he maybe wasn't fully committed to the White Sox like he should have been. Well, guess what, White Sox? He turned down his national broadcast for the football game to do these last 3 games for the Tigers.
Did he?
Yeah. So it's just like the irony there. But what an unbelievable ride for Jason Benetti that this has been. I think we're seeing one of the best postseason runs in quite some time. And, if the Tigers win today, that'll be their first time in a playoff position since 2014.
That is fantastic. It's unbelievable, really, when you consider the odds of them winning or even making the playoffs, I should say, back in, at the trade deadline, back at the beginning of August, even as recently as the beginning of September. They didn't have a great shot at winning and enough to get into the playoffs, but they're crazy? Right there now.
They actually told my dad, they were like, I don't think, they told him probably July, because my dad works with Bally Detroit and he does their pre and post game shows. He says, I don't think we're going to have you out for the rest of the season because we're probably not going to go anywhere. Like they almost were going to shorten their side of the broadcast because the Tigers were so unsuccessful. Wow. I mean, that was a legitimate conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, we're kind of going to pump the brakes a little bit on all the broadcasting because nobody's watching.
Right.
Well, everybody is watching these games.
It is must-see TV right now, no doubt about that. So a fun story, and certainly we can all relate because the Rangers went right down to the wire last year as far as whether they would win the division, make the playoffs, or not get into the playoffs at all. And it all came down to those last 3 games in Seattle. We all know what happened. They didn't play great in that series. They played well enough to get in, not well enough to win the division. And then it was all fantastic from that moment on. So that's what other teams are enjoying right now. That's what makes us smile, not just that they are, but the memory of what all Rangers fans experienced last year. Okay, we've got lots more coming up. Jeff's going to join us from Anaheim. We'll take a look at the sort of the pitching elements from yesterday a little bit, but also looking forward to the weekend. And coming up later, we will get back into those playoff races because they are fantastic. Fantastic. But first, we would like you to avail yourself to Game Time. Yeah. I'm getting it.
Good job, Rats.
Game Time is a great app. It's an app where you can get a ticket when you need one. If you're a big baseball fan, you're going to need one, right? It's coming up, the playoffs. That's the hardest time to get a ticket. So avail yourself to Game Time. Not familiar? Let us tell you. Game Time is an app that guarantees that the tickets you buy from them are legit, right? So many times you try to buy tickets and they're not legit. So they guarantee it with a 110% money back guarantee. You see that little screen. So yeah, that way from me. That shows what you can look at on the app to determine which seat you might like. It's got section numbers. It's got prices. The pricing is not bad. In fact, if you're willing to wait, you can get some pretty good deals late in the process of trying to go to a game. So they'll do that. Plus, it's the whole virtual thing, right? That you can take a look at what the view from your seat looks like. It's a great app. It's high tech and it's for you. So if you go to Game Time right now and purchase with the code DLLS, you will get $20 off your very first purchase with Game Time. There are terms that apply, so check with Game Time to be sure.
Game Time?
Game Time.
Now we're going to Sleeper.
Yeah.
We need to make a little jingle for that one. So I'm looking at it tonight with Jacob deGrom because if you think that you know ball, I'm asking you to put your knowledge to the test with Sleeper. It was kind of like the fantasy football app, but it's so much more than that. They've got every sport you can imagine. Jacob deGrom tonight, are you going to take over under 5 strikeouts?
I'll take, that's close. I think tonight I'm going to take the over.
Taking the over. I think I would too. And then walks. 1 walk?
No, he didn't walk people.
He really doesn't. I was looking at it today, which we will talk about, but his walks are minimum and then hits allowed 3. Over, under?
Under.
Under.
Yeah.
So there's your free money from us today. But no, Sleeper is one of the best apps when it comes to betting. You can pick your favorite or least favorite. So if you feel like you have a ton of knowledge about somebody that's going to do great or not so great, use it to your advantage and earn money back. The more that you combine, the more that you win. So you can get 100 times over your money. If you think that you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app today and use code DLLS Rangers to get a $100 match on your first deposit.
Yeah, that's great. That's free money.
Free money for
said,
Jacob deGrom.
Nothing like free money. Jeff and I have done it. You get the 100 right away. When you got to put 100 in for them to match it. If you put 25 in, you get 25. That type of thing.
You get the hundo.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it, and there is nothing like free money. It's great for everybody. So back to the Rangers today and this weekend in Anaheim, where they close out the season this year. Jeff is there now and joins his hotel in Anaheim after a quick flight to Southern California. Jeff, so first of all, we want to talk about deGrom today. Jacob deGrom on the mound today. It is that's always exciting, right? And there's so much for him to continue to do and to show and to prove.
He wants to go deeper than he has in any of his games so far. He wants 75 pitches. I don't know that the Rangers are going to agree to that, but within whatever pitches he has, he wants to get to the fifth inning. That's kind of his goal. He wants to, even if he doesn't finish the fifth, he at least wants to have what they call the ups, when he sits down and then gets back up and goes back out. So he wants that. I think that's his biggest goal for today. But the Angels are a young, struggling lineup. They've probably never seen anything like him before, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's the key. That young lineup, which again we know has experienced its share of futility, even against the White Sox in the last 3 games. The Angels were swept in that 3-game series against the woeful White Sox,
which is the second sweep the White Sox have had this season.
They've had 2 all
which
year.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, they've had 2 all year. So that there is a certain amount of pressure, if you will, on the Angels hitters when you face somebody like deGrom. Many of them for the first time, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it with Wyatt Langford this year, seeing pitchers for the first time. It's you either run into something because you get lucky, or it takes you a couple at bats, and you're depending on how long he goes, he's not going to get a couple at bats. But he is around the strike zone, so these guys will be able to see pitches and even get some swings off. But hitting, it's a whole other thing. And if his slider is on and it's looking like the fastball in the same tunnel, then they're going to be in trouble. A lot of these guys were at AAA to start the year. Even some of the young guys who've played all year, they will have never seen Jacob deGrom. So it'll be advantage deGrom. I think you can say that every time he gets on the mound, though. But in this case, I think he has a particular edge. I don't know about the 5.5 strikeouts, just because you don't know how long he's going to pitch for those of us on the Sleeper app. But it's going to be good, and he will have more than 1 strikeout. How about that?
He will. The last time that he pitched there was in 2017.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 2017. He didn't allow any runs on 4 hits, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, 7 innings. We're not going to get 7 innings from Jacob deGrom today. But, his first 2 starts have been very good. Combined 6 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. So I like what I've seen from Jacob deGrom in 2 starts. Again, the sample size, super small. But this season was just about him having some starts under his belt so that he can have the most normal offseason that he's had in a long time.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it, right now, Jeff? Obviously, the very first key is to make sure he gets out of this thing, the rest of this season, out of this game, completely healthy. But also to just make the progress that he needs to feel complete, right? And to feel like, okay, now I begin a completely normal, healthy offseason.
Yeah, there's a mental barrier here. The last couple off seasons, shoot, I don't know, maybe more than a couple. he's been rehabbing from something, So the goal here, when's the last time that Jacob deGrom had a normal offseason? So maybe 21 would be my guess. Not sure, but to be able to go in and work out and do what he's done in the past to be great, it's like a burden off his shoulders. He can go back to what he's used to doing and not have to worry about hurting anything. And then yes, it's just 3 starts that he's made, but he's still going to be able to pick up what he needs. Like, he wants his slider to keep getting better. It's been really good, but for Jacob's standards, it has not been the Jacob deGrom wipeout slider. So that's something he's going to work on. He's meticulous about his mechanics, so he'll want to keep working on those. It's going to be a refreshing offseason, I think, for him, and it's probably going to feel good to not have to have any concerns about an elbow or a shoulder or any other aching body part.
And to put his health in perspective, so he won the back-to-back Cy Young Awards in 2018 and 2019, and then he had a shortened season in 2020. In 4 seasons since then, he's made 34 starts. And that's just 193 innings. So he's had brutal injuries. And you do want to see a full season of Jacob deGrom. I mean, it's been 5 years.
Yeah. How about 180 or 93 next year? Yeah. That'd be a pretty nice inning total if you were able to have a healthy Jacob deGrom to make it through an entire year next year.
I think the kids in baseball need it. Because some kids are like, oh, Jacob deGrom's not that good. I'm like, you weren't watching when he was really good.
Stand by. And then Andrew Heaney goes tomorrow, Jeff. And look, we said this before, but there is a ton of motivation for him too. Some of it, of course, has to do with the fact that he's going to be a free agent. So technically, he is showcasing himself, ideally, to the Rangers for another contract, but realistically, to 30 clubs.
Yeah. And he's obviously very comfortable with this ballpark. He's pitched most of his career here. So I'm sure there's going to be a comfort factor at play here. And then he can just keep doing what he's been doing. I know his numbers, are probably over a full season the best of his career. He'd never made 30 starts before. So this is really, really good. There's still questions about him getting past, the 5th inning, getting into the 6th and 7th. That's something for teams to weigh. But if you know what you're getting into, and if you have a bullpen that you feel confident in, then Andrew Heaney is going to be a good fit for your team. But he's also pitched for winners a lot of his career. He's had stops with the Yankees and the Dodgers. I think they weren't necessarily full season stops, but people don't recognize that. He's always been in winning environments. Even these Angels teams, I know they haven't won for a long time, but they were good competitive teams when he was with them. So, and then of course, last year the World Series and what he did in Game 4, just coming out and dealing like he did. He's got a lot of things to like if you're another team or if you're the Rangers. I mean, honestly, if they have rotation questions, if Nathan Eovaldi doesn't come back, say, would you want Andrew Heaney back? Somebody that is going to, or every year they're confident is going to go out and post 25 to 30 times. I mean, that's just a big thing. All good teams have a guy like him, and you hope to have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And one thing to point out with both of the Rangers and the Angels, they have a little bit of negative history kind of on their side during this series because the Rangers are 84 losses this season. That's the most by a defending World Series champion since 2014 when the Red Sox lost 91. And then yesterday, the Angels set a new franchise record for the most losses in a single season with 96 losses. The Rangers have won 6 of 10 games against the Angels this season, but I mean, both teams are not in like the White Sox position per se, but it is both, chasing like a kind of negative stat.
Basically trying to avoid trying to avoid that at this point. And so that is what contributes to the battle that we'll see this weekend. Jeff, Abs and I talked a little in the first segment just about the reaction from Jacob deGrom, or rather from Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter yesterday. Kumar saying he felt more in rhythm yesterday than he has so far this year. Jack was great, saying, I'd love to follow Kumar again someday, like in Game 7 of a playoff series, because that's the only time he really wants to do that. But I thought both reactions were excellent. Your thoughts?
Yeah, they walked away with some good vibes. And, I can't help but think that those two who've known each other, obviously, for a long time and pitched together in college, how that relationship they built then and the competitive juices they had to go out and one up each other, how those have to carry over. I mean, it still has to be something that they can sense, because it wasn't that long ago. And the opportunity to see each other pitch, to hang out, and then to try to one up each. Jack was really good yesterday. There's no doubt about it. So that is cool, and it also indicates that they felt good about how they did. And you don't want to go into the off season with your tail between your legs. You want to go into the off season with something to build on, and I think that they both have it. Kumar being healthy and making his debut, and then Jack finishing well after a rough debut. So they're part of the future. TBA, what role and how well, but if you just go off of what you've seen this year in terms of their development, Jack Leiter developed. Jack Leiter was great at AAA. You just have to feel good about those two as you go forward.
Yeah, no doubt. That's great. That's the good finish to a season, despite the fact that the Rangers didn't get that victory yesterday. So we've got more coming up as we continue to look at the Rangers offseason possibilities, some of the dubious distinctions the Angels are trying to avoid, and perhaps a new player in the Rangers offseason. That's all coming up. But first, I would like to tell you I am not a smart man.
How come?
The other day, it was dusk. I needed my sunglasses because the sun was setting. Came to a place where I was going in maybe for a minute, maybe for a while, and I tossed my sunglasses on the seat.
Did you sit on them?
Yeah. Busted. Bam. You know what's the problem? I didn't have shady rays. I'm about to, though, and you should too. I broke a real nice pair of sunglasses because I put up, first of all, you don't put them on the seat. Of course, I sat on them in the dark when I finished whatever I was doing at the place I was doing it. So get shady rays. You won't have to worry about this. They're almost indestructible.
You said that with such conviction.
Yeah. I mean, that's
like
why I'm
like begging.
so glad to get my shady rays soon. Yeah. They're almost indestructible. Great styles, great design. They're polarized. They're awesome. They're not going to break the bank. Get yourself some shady rays. And if you go on the website and use the code DLLS, 35% off shady rays.
35 is very generous.
Significant.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the Dom Perignon bottles have been popped as of late.
Boy, have they ever.
It is almost October, which means postseason. And I do wonder if any of these guys were told about the remedy to
sure hope so.
To the night after celebrating clinching your division or a wild card spot, and that is ZBiotics. ZBiotics is the #1 pre-drinking product. If you have a fun weekend ahead or you just won the National League division title, hey, you need ZBiotics. It is the first pre-alcohol that is genetically engineered, and it's a probiotic. It was invented by a PhD scientist. It's going to help you tackle the rough morning. What happens when you drink is, the toxins in your body produce something in your gut, and that leads to dehydration, which is kind of like why you don't feel great. But the pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that kind of fights that.
Nice.
So, it's one in front of the other. Remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. So you can go to zbiotics.com/DLLS Rangers for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode, and good times of some
so many
American
people.
League champions,
so
some
many
National
people.
League, yeah.
And there's still some celebrations to be had, by the way.
There
so watch, and we're going to get to some of those later on in the program when we talk about some of the wild races, especially in the wild card. Right now, though, we bring Jeff back in to talk a little bit about, first of all, situation, Jeff, that the Angels do find themselves in, and you're as close to Wash as any of our former beat writers, or we're all buddies with him, but I know you've stayed very closely in touch with him. His expectations going into this, I mean, he knew, obviously he didn't know Mike Trout wasn't going to be available as much as he hasn't been, but he knew this was not sort of a situation where you're going to win immediately, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure they presented that to him. You know, they knew, for instance, last offseason that they were going to not be able to re-sign Shohei Ohtani. I mean, they, during the interview process, they said they're going to make a try, but they didn't feel good about it. So Wash knew that going in. And so what do? How do you replace that guy? Well, you hope that Mike Trout is healthy for the first time in a couple of years, and he wasn't. So, you still have Anthony Rendon, who's been a major disappointment. And then it turns out they've had the veterans they have, Rendon and Brandon Drury's been just dreadful this year. But they do have some good young players, but they needed to learn how to play the game the right way. And I think that, they wanted Wash's vision for how to play the game. And, you've seen Wash. I think they've tried 11 or 12 squeeze bunts this year. They try to run the bases aggressively, but he wants them to, be good defensively, of course. And, he really likes the shortstop, Zach Neto. But he's a young player, known Seanwell, the first baseman, young player, developing player. So he's had his hands full for sure. And then when you trade off what good stuff you have at the deadline, it gets worse. And, the good news is that in his first season with the Rangers in 2007, they traded Mark Teixeira at the deadline. And so that kind of was an indicator that the Rangers were going to rebuild for a couple of years. Now they still had Michael Young and Ian Kinsler, but still that team, if you go back and look at box scores and things like that, you're like, man, these guys never made it. Well, you might be seeing that with the Angels too. But Wash's patience, he's a teacher. He has the most energy of any 71-year-old I've ever been around. And but yeah, he knew what he was getting into. But he also, last time they were here, the last time they were in Arlington not that long ago, he said next year we're going to be really good. So he's staying positive. It doesn't get much worse than a 3-game sweep to the White Sox. So all that positivity that Wash has is going to need to shine on the club this series.
And they were outscored in that series against the White Sox 14-5.
Yeah.
So I do think that's just a punch in the gut. And one of the players said, it's pretty sickening going into the spring and expecting things to turn around. And then this happens. We've got a good group in here, and it doesn't feel like what the record shows. But the record is what it is. I don't think anyone here is okay with it.
No, they're not. And we know this, Jeff, from our time watching Wash develop the teams that he did into those that went to World Series in back-to-back years. First of all, we know about his competitiveness. He's just super, ultra, highly competitive. But secondly, my memory is, and I'm sure yours too, that when he is facing that adversity, the likes of which the Rangers did after the Teixeira trade, or that the Angels are now, Wash digs in with extra work, harder work. He works harder to get his team out of a situation like that. He won't be outworked.
No, that's the truth. I mean, this is a guy who for years through batting practice, the Braves finally pulled him off of BP. He would throw BP every day. Hit tons and tons of grounders, work with infielders. Now, as a manager, you can't do that as much as Wash would like, but he's still out there. He's in the mix. He holds meetings with the team. They go over the good and the bad from games, and it's not a butt-chewing film session. It's how could we have done this better? This is what you needed to do to make it better. And so, these guys are going to be better off for it. And a lot, some of these guys are getting exposed to the major leagues for the first time. Some of them are, unfortunately, in every team in the situation, veterans struggling to hold on or just hoping to get a paycheck. But that's where the rebuild comes in. You separate those guys from the guys you want on the team, and then you go forward with that group. So they're going to keep getting better. I think that the player that Abby was talking about is right. I mean, it's going to be hard to go from the most losses in franchise history to the playoffs next year. But, a rebuild isn't a 1-year thing. So maybe in 2 years, this team's a little more competitive. Artie Moreno will put money in. Their farm system has shown some signs of rebounding. They have some decent young arms in the rotation. And then, Ben Joyce, the hard-throwing reliever who looks like a closer for years to come. So if they can get the core built, then they can supplement it in a number of ways, but it's not a 1-year thing.
Right. And Ron's processes work. I mean, he's got a winning record as a manager, and he has 4 consecutive 90-win seasons from 2010 to 2013 and 2 pennants. So it's not like, he doesn't know what he's talking about at all. I remember kind of when Seager and Simeon came, and it was the first year of their contract, and it was a bad year, and everyone's like, oh, everyone wasted so much money on this. And it's like, well, just because you bought it doesn't mean it's going to click automatically. It's going to take time. Every story that I've heard of Ron Washington, he knows exactly how to talk to his players, get the best out of them. If anybody can rally a group of young guys together, it is Ron Washington.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll continue to get the opportunity there, Jeff, because Abby's absolutely right about that. Wash can and will and won't be outworked en route to getting as much as he possibly can out of guys like this. And the numbers that Abby brought up, make it the reason why it was such a head scratcher that it took Wash this long to get another managerial job.
Yeah, he had a real good shot in 20 after the 19 season to latch on with the Padres, and it didn't work out. He thought he was going to get that job, and he'd interviewed a couple other times, but he resurrected, I guess, his career in Atlanta. They were successful. You had guys like Freddie Freeman saying Ron Washington is the reason why I have a Gold Glove. And then a young star like Ozzie Albies, who was Wash's project basically from day one, and Albies became an all-star and a respected guy defensively. Just a lot of young guys from that Braves team. I mean, they have a bunch of young stars, guys that are homegrown guys, or guys who they got their hands on real young, who've developed into core members of that team and then have been extended wisely by Braves front office and ownership. But Wash was just an integral part in all of that, and so it raised his profile and helped him get interviews. And you have to be in a position, though. I don't think Ron Washington is a guy you just want to necessarily hand a winning club to. I mean, he would do fine with it, but that's not his pedigree. His pedigree is taking over a team, dealing with the rough spots, teaching them teaching the players how to get better and how to win. And that's what's facing him here in Anaheim. So
basically, we know the recipe works. It's just a crock pot meal instead of a microwave meal.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time. Everyone chill out.
And players are different, too, than when Wash took over because, Elvis Andrus, and Elvis admitted it when he retired at the news conference. There was some tough love in there. Ron Washington called out Neto not that long ago because his head was not in it, and he just pulled him out of the game. And so they asked him afterward, reporters asked him afterward, why did you take him out? And he said, because he wasn't in the game. And Wash said that Neto didn't talk to him for 2 days, but finally came around and understood what the purpose of that was. And so it's little things like that. And players aren't used to tough love these days. They just aren't. But that's the way Wash does its job. It has a proven success, proven track record of guys. Marcus Semien, all right, Marcus Semien. I can't believe I didn't come to reference this sooner. Marcus Semien was Ron Washington's pet project when the A's hired him in 2015. Semien was throwing the ball from shortstop all over the infield and making errors. And Ron Washington, you want to talk about somebody who cherishes Ron Washington and says Ron Washington is the reason for my success. It's Marcus Semien.
Yeah, and Simmy's told me the same thing, right? He said, "Oh my gosh, Wash! I don't know if I'd still be in the big leagues if it weren't for Wash." And of course, you go back to the days when Wash was there previously, and the Eric Chavez's of the world gave Wash each and every Gold Glove that they received because they knew how instrumental Wash was in sort of developing them into that Gold Glove caliber player.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, some of those were lost during Katrina. Wash lives in New Orleans, and his house took some severe damage. And among the things that were lost were some of the Gold Gloves that the players had given him. But to your point, they love him. I mean, Marcus. There was an off-season deal in the Bay Area before he signed with the Rangers. But it was like, kind of a invite your favorite mentor or coach or whatever. And Marcus picked Ron Washington, and it's just this guy, it's just proven results. The guy's a winner. He works hard. He's a good man, a good friend. And I wish him the best. I really do.
Yeah. All right. Except for these three against the Rangers this weekend. We've got a robust batting cleanup segment coming up because there is so much happening in these playoff races, these playoff pictures. We've got so much to talk about regarding the wild card and also some Shohei Ohtani news and notes for you coming up. But first, Abs.
Let me tell you about being a diehard.
Yeah.
Be our best friends. I mean, me and Rads, we're pretty good friends. We want you to be our best friends. What you can do is you can go to alldlls.com and then you can join the fandom. It is $79.99 a year and it comes with so many perks. Number one, you get a free t-shirt. He'll tell you all about that in a second. But then you are going to join the Dallas community. You get access to our premium diehard level content, 20% off all merch, 20% off events. You even get a little nifty diehard member card that you can keep in your wallet. People still carry those around. And then they have a Discord lounge. So you guys can take the conversation from, whatever you talked about in the chat here, which we've seen so many today. We love it. But you guys can carry on your own conversation separately. You guys can also send in super chats. It's not a diehard thing, but send in super chats. And that way we will 100% talk about what you're bringing up, whether it's a question or just a statement that you have. Use the super chats, utilize them, but it's also an ad-free experience. Just so many great things. I mean, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to do something in the next season. We really want you guys to join. And that with Cowboys, Mavs, Rangers, Stars, the whole 9 yards.
Yep. It's a great thing to join and a great thing to be a diehard. I could see me flashing that card like a police badge. Here I am. I'm a diehard. And I would, as Abby mentioned, I would and will flash my merch. Much easier to flash because I'll wear it. I'll be wearing a t-shirt soon. They are ready to ship, and we're looking forward to getting them. The merchandise that DLLS has is so fantastic. It's high quality. The materials are great. Everything about this stuff is really good. So we encourage you to get that merch too. And, all you have to do is go to store.allcitynetwork.com and you can get yourself merch, t-shirts, hoodies, hats are coming soon. All those things available to you at store.allcitynetwork.com.
I love Cooper's comment about Josh and Jace potentially getting a ring in like a back-to-back season. And then Ben said that'll feed families or just the young family.
Yeah.
Either way, that would be amazing. But let's dive in to what's happening in the playoff picture.
Yeah, those clinchers last night.
I mean, it's going to start next week. I'm so excited about it. Let's talk about what happened last night. The Dodgers clinched the 11th NL West crown in the past 12 seasons. I mean, they are like the Alabama Roll Tide, Nick Saban era of baseball. 7-2 win over the Padres. The Dodgers spent more than $1 billion in contracts this winter. So you got to spend money to make money. That's exactly what they're doing right now. They are prepared to participate in their 59th postseason, most in the majors.
Wow.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. And Shohei Ohtani, you know, we've all seen what he's done this season, but he's a 2-time MVP, a 2-time Silver Slugger, 4-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, Major League Player of the Year. 857 games at the major league level. He will have his first run in the playoffs.
That's so much fun. It's just really great to see. And Ohtani gets to 400 total bases, becoming the first player since Ford did it back in 2001 to reach 400 total bases. Again, we've talked about this, Jeff. A lot of these gaudy offensive numbers that he is putting up may be a one-shot deal if he back to pitching next year, and he says he might be back to pitching as soon as in the playoffs.
You know, that cracked me up. The 4 players did it in 2001. You know, wonder what was happening in 2001.
I can't think of anything. Yeah.
Well, although Todd Helton was one of them, and Todd Helton's never really been accused of that, so maybe that was the thin air. But Luis Gonzalez hit 57 home runs that year. You know, another guy that doesn't get a lot of ties to the PEDs, but he'd never come close and never came close again. So, hey, maybe it was just the Arizona water. But to your point, you know, like we've said before, to do both is difficult. You know, he has to throw bullpens. He has to do, you know, between starts. He still has to hit and get ready for games. I mean, you just never see Shohei Ohtani hit on the field. So that's one way he tries to balance it. But I mean, he's basically doing 2 full-time jobs. So obviously you're something's got to give, you know, and I really don't think he'll pitch in the postseason. I think the Dodgers are smarter than that. Although they did just lose a key bullpen piece to the injured list yesterday. So if they get through the first round, if Gatterall isn't ready to come back, then I don't know, maybe they'd be tempted. But I can't see him pitching in the fall. But I can see him pitching next summer. When he completes the rehab assignment. I just don't think there's any way he can keep up the pace that he set this year offensively.
Well, I like watching greatness, and I'm excited to see a postseason run. The next one is the Yankees clinched their 21st AL East title in a 10-1 win over the Orioles. Aaron Judge, speaking of, 58th home run last night. He's hit 5 straight games with a home run. And Stanton had a home run with 4 RBI. Garrett Cole also threw 6 2/3 scoreless, so it was a no-doubter there at Yankee Stadium. But, I mean, when you look at what the Yankees and the Dodgers have done in baseball, it's just you can always kind of pencil them in for the postseason, it seems.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And obviously with the star power they have there. And incidentally, you got Ohtani and Judge both vying for triple crowns this season. It's still not out of the question with 3 games remaining for everybody that each of those guys would win the triple crown, which is, pretty amazing to have.
It'd be a lot of triple crowns.
Yeah.
Being tossed around this season.
Right, because you could have 2 in pitching too easily with
just speaks to the talent
Skubal and Sale. Yeah, so there's a lot going on with that triple crown category, and obviously the Yankees and the Dodgers might make some people go, oh, again. But there's something to the tradition and the fun of having those 2 blue blood baseball teams, at least both having a chance. And I'll tell you this, Jeff, the networks, man, they would love a Yankees-Dodgers matchup this year, wouldn't they?
They would.
I want one. I'm fine with that.
Any extra Ohtani and Judge on the TV would be ratings gold. But I mean, the Dodgers have not had a lot of postseason success really since winning the World Series.
Yeah.
They've been early exits from the postseason. So that's something to keep an eye on. And the Yankees too. I mean, the Yankees haven't won it all since 2009. They didn't make the playoffs last year, as I recall. It was just the
No,
Orioles and the Rays from the East. So they have some things to prove. But if you want to go back to the 50s, all right, when the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Yankees, those were pretty special series, and then if you want to go to the late 70s, the Reggie Jackson 3-homer game was against the Dodgers. And then I think there was an early 80s World Series between the two. So, it's, oh gosh, the Dodgers and the Yankees. But you haven't seen them head-to-head for a while. So I think that would be kind of cool from a baseball history standpoint. But, you have to think that they're the favorites. You just kind of look at their offensive firepower, their ability to win close games, things like that. They may go in to the postseason as the favorites. I kind of think the Guardians are sneaky. I always like a hot team, so I kind of gonna like the Tigers a little bit, and then I think whoever wins the Mets and Braves situation, whoever comes out of that and has to scramble and all of this stuff, I think that might actually play to their advantage. So we'll see what happens. Let's see who makes the playoffs first, but. I wouldn't mind Yankees Dodgers World Series just from a history standpoint.
I have a bold statement. I think that I want to proclaim.
Okay.
I think a World Series MVP will be Aaron Judge this year.
Wow.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I'm feeling like it's his year.
Wow. Okay. Over Ohtani.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I mean.
Well, yeah,
Yankees
we don't know
win.
if either one of them will be there, but
right. But
yeah.
no, I mean, I really do see it being Yankees Dodgers, and then I see Aaron Judge getting the crown.
All right.
So let's go to the wild card because
it's wild.
It is wild. There's 3 days left in the regular season, and a lot can happen. So let's talk about what's already happened in the American League wild card. The Orioles have already clinched. They will be the number 4 seed in playoff position. The Royals may be looking at the number 5. Tigers number 6 seed. Still alive is the Twins. However, it's pretty unlikely. What would need to happen for all of these teams this weekend? The Tigers could clinch as early as today. They are playing the White Sox at home. It would be the first time that they have gone to the postseason since 2014. The Royals and the Tigers can both clinch a postseason berth with 1 or more wins, and the Twins lost. The Twins need to win their final 3 games.
Right.
And I do not...
And hope that the other 2 both lose their final 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do not see that happening. I'm also going to go with the Tigers today.
Okay, good.
I think that that's going to happen. All of my buddies are in Detroit, very close with that team, and, watched them closely this year. I feel very passionate about the Tigers. Their magic number is number 1. I think that they can do it today. Now let's take a look at the National League wild card
this is where it gets
what
crazy.
Needs to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to need some help with this one, fellas. All right, so we already have the Padres clinched. They're currently holding the number 4 seed in playoff position. They have the Mets at number 5 and the D-backs number 6. Still alive are the Braves. So the Mets and the Braves, they had 2 games. They were supposed to have one the other day. It got rained out.
Yeah.
Got rained out.
Wednesday and Thursday, yeah.
So now they're going to play a doubleheader Monday. I just have to read this verbatim because I don't know another way to explain it. The Mets cannot be eliminated before Monday. At worst, they will finish Sunday's 2 games behind the Braves, needing a doubleheader sweep to pull into a tie and claim the tiebreaker. Okay? The Braves could be eliminated before Monday. However, they will remain in contention going into that day's doubleheader if they, number 1, stay within 2 games of the Mets in the standings, number 2, are fewer than 2 wins behind the Diamondbacks. In either scenario, Atlanta would have to win 2. Let's see. In either scenario, where is this? Either scenario, Atlanta would at least have a chance to win twice on Monday to clinch a spot via tiebreaker. The Diamondbacks would be eliminated if the Mets and Braves both finish Sunday with at least as many wins as Arizona, which would lose any 2 or 3 tiebreaker scenarios. All in all, even if Arizona is eliminated in that scenario, Mets and Braves still have to play because that has to decide number 5, number 6.
So did you notice when you first started reading, Jeff and I were concentrating and listening, and then all of a sudden our eyes rolled back in our heads.
That's what I'm saying.
It was just like, whoa, that's a lot. It is amazing, though, that we have to have, 161 and 162 played on Monday, in part, obviously, because of Hurricane Helene and the effects of it. But it's going to be an interesting week, Jeff, and a very difficult one, potentially, for both the Braves and the Mets, if they wind up both being the wild card teams and just playing for seeding on Monday.
Yeah, they might be playing for the shorter flight, at that point, and you might see a lot of stuff go down, honestly, and but also if they know they're going to be in the playoffs, they probably have their rotations lined up a certain way. And so you might also see a bullpen game. I mean, if just getting in the tournament is all that matters, then that's one thing. And also, they might like how they match up against the Padres. Let's say they might want to do that. I know last year the Rangers wanted to play the Rays. They really thought that they matched up well with Tampa Bay, and it turns out that was correct. I don't think they wanted to lose the last game. I think they would have rather won the division, but they were not upset to be playing the Rays. They felt good about it. So if if the Braves would rather play the Padres, then maybe more stops will be pulled out, or maybe they'll just rest all their guys. Remember last year, the last day of the season, the Diamondbacks, their fate was all sealed up and done, and they didn't play any of their regulars. And the Astros stomped the living hell out of them and won the West because the Rangers lost to the Mariners 1-0 in a game that they were really trying to win, in which the Mariners upheld the integrity of the playoff race. So a lot of things could happen, but I hope by the time Monday rolls around, Arizona's out, and that they don't have to worry about. The MLB doesn't have to worry about, the possibility of any controversy or anything like that. And of course, I'm a aforementioned Braves fan, so hopefully the Braves and the Mets are both set on Monday, and it's a hassle-free day for baseball.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun, and it's really going to be a fun weekend, and then the fun really begins next week when the playoffs begin. So, Jeff, thanks. Have fun covering the series there in Anaheim, and of course, we will talk to you on Sunday for our pre- and post-game show before and after the final game of the regular season. And so, yeah, enjoy that, Jeff. As for us, we take tomorrow off. We come back on Sunday, and we wrap up the season. We get ready for doing this 5 days a week during the off season.
I'm going to try to take a nap because running through that National League made my head hurt and made me sleepy.
Yeah, it's time for a nap. It's baseball late night tonight anyway, so get your nap in, watch us some Rangers baseball, see what's happening with them, see how Jacob deGrom looks on the mound tonight. We will see you again Sunday as we bring you a pregame show before the final game of the regular season. And so for J-Dub in Anaheim and for Abs, I'm Rads. Thanks to the Prophet over here, our producer. Busy day for him. He gets the MVP award of this day.
He does.
Well, he gets the co-MVP with you. Thanks for chatting along, and thanks for being with us today. We'll see you Sunday.
We all silly like the mayor.